Hey, and welcome back to the channel. Let's get your shift together. I'm Coach Adriana, and today I'm going to be talking about some advice that I wish I got when I first learned that my late mother was a narcissist. Before we dive in, you know the drill. If this content resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, like this video, feel free to leave a comment, and participate in any other algorithm boosting activities because this helps my channel reach other people who also need to see this content. So I first found out that my mother was a narcissist over 10 years ago in early 2014. And obviously the internet existed, but it was not what it is today. There were not as many people talking about this type of stuff, and while I think it's still a bit taboo, it was a lot more taboo back then. And outside of the random message forums that existed back then for this topic, and my therapist who actually didn't know a whole lot about narcissistic mothers and gave me terrible advice that only made my healing process take longer than it needed to, but that's another topic for another time. I learned pretty quickly I didn't have that many people to talk to about this, so in my own trauma response back then, I would talk to whoever would listen and whoever seemed interested. And my advice for you today is to not do that. Don't talk to just anybody who will listen because most people don't get it. There's a very good chance you're gonna very quickly encounter the "but that's your mother" crowd in full force. They're gonna tell you to think about her childhood and why what she went through made her treat you like shit, as if that's a justifiable excuse, because let's not forget, your childhood was shitty too because you were raised by this shit. And are you going around treating other people like shit? And for those of you who do have children, could you imagine treating your child like shit just because you had a shitty childhood? It's not an excuse, but people are going to make it an excuse because that's your mother. And so if you encounter one of these people, which you inevitably probably will, here's what you need to understand. This is somebody who it didn't even occur to them that, like, you tried already to give your mother the benefit of the doubt, and your first reaction to this person excusing and justifying your mother's abuse because that's your mother and mothers are never capable of doing any wrong, your first reaction might be to start over-explaining yourself and further tell the stories about how bad it was. And you might try to even educate them on what a narcissist is and all that kind of stuff. And the only thing that's gonna do is deplete your energy. You're gonna be tired. There's just really no sense in continuing to have a conversation with somebody who has bought into the lie that mothers are these perfect angels who can never do any wrong and that abusive mothers just don't exist. Because at the end of the day, if you have told somebody your truth and you even have the courage to actually share your story with someone, you have to remember that that is a privilege for that other person to hear your story. And so if they're not gonna believe you and they're gonna dismiss you, throw it back in your face, this is probably not somebody who needs to be in your life. And this is also somebody who probably has a very rigid belief system that, again, all mothers are perfect, incapable of doing any wrong, must be placed on a pedestal at all times, and it's their choice if they want to believe that and buy into that myth. And now, before people come at me in the comments, I'm not saying all mothers, I'm saying narcissistic mothers. So if you don't have the best comprehension skills and you still choose to leave a comment attacking what I'm talking about and assuming that I'm talking about all mothers, you probably didn't even make it that far in this video, so. Anyways, you have to recognize that people who believe this, it's their choice if they want to continue believing this. And it's not your job to help them get their head out of their ass on topics that they know nothing about. That is on them. And now I'm going to share a little bit about my own story because I know you are probably worried about that one random coworker who you maybe already told everything to, and then they dismissed you and they kept saying that's your mother, blah, blah, blah. And now you're worried that maybe this person sees you in a different light and things are going to be awkward or whatever. So I hope that by sharing my story, this is going to help you out. So like I said at the beginning, 2014 was when I first learned that my mother was a narcissist, and I told a lot of people that I shouldn't have told. Am I proud of it? No. Am I still ashamed of myself? No, because I've done the inner work and now I can share this story with you to help you if you are in a similar situation, so you can not only learn from my mistakes, but also spend significantly less time in a shame spiral than I did. So I was judged very harshly by the "but that's your mother" crowd for essentially believing my own memories about what I went through with my late narcissistic mother, and it's so ridiculous how much survivors, specifically of narcissistic mothers, are not believed about their own lived experience. And so you really just want to be careful who you're talking to about this, who you're divulging this information to, because there's one out of two options with these types of people. Option number one, they might be a narcissist too. And of course, they're gonna excuse and justify that kind of behavior when they hear about it from somebody else. There's also another chance that they might be an enabler, but enablers are just as toxic as narcissists. And the thing with enablers is that you might not necessarily recognize that they're a narcissist as well because you're not their main target. right? You're not going to know for sure if somebody's like a full-blown narcissist unless you are their main target, and they really only target the people closest to them. And so if you're telling them this horror story about what you went through and they start enabling and justifying what you went through because that's your mother, if you really think about it, how are they treating their children, right? Just some food for thought. And the other potential situation is that they are truly incapable of understanding that not every single person on this planet has the exact same lived experience as they do, and they've managed to get however far they've gotten in life already, like power to them. But regardless, whatever the reason for the "but that's your mother" crowd is for dismissing you is irrelevant. At the end of the day, this is not somebody who you need in your life. This is not somebody whose opinion about your life matters. And the biggest mistake I made was that I took these people's words seriously. I made the mistake of actually listening to them and believing them. And this kept me stuck in the illusion that my mother would be capable of behaving like a normal, rational adult. And I was stuck in this delusion for a very long time. And after maybe like 10 people told me, "But that's your mother, think about her childhood, give her the benefit of the doubt, she was stressed out, blah, blah, blah," including therapists also telling me this, I pretty much went right back into denial about my mother having been a narcissist. And that denial lasted about 1.5 years, and I was confronted with some very harsh truths and could not support the delusion anymore, but I didn't need to waste that 1.5 years. But again, the resources that were available to me just were not the right resources that I actually needed at the time. And for that 1.5 years, I really just held out hope that she would change. Or I would blame myself that I just didn't understand her. And we were two completely different people, and I just needed to do a better job at understanding where she was coming from and take the abuse. And I did this because pretty much everybody around me disagreed with my actual memories. And this further led me to believe that, okay, I guess I am really the one who has memory issues, because I had been gaslit by my mother so much that I already believed I had memory issues. And now these external people were confirming to me that I had these memory issues. And I continued to gaslight myself. I truly believed that I was such a screw up as a human, and that if this many people are saying the opposite of what I experienced, then my brain and my mind just were so damaged for some reason, and therefore I must be wrong and they must be right, especially if mental health professionals were also telling this to me. The other mistake that I made was putting all of these people on a pedestal and assuming that they knew what the hell they were talking about, and also assuming that they were rational and they knew what was going on because they had all this additional life experience that I didn't have at the time. So, I just kind of took their word for it. Stayed stuck for that extra 1.5 years. And then, of course, like I said, everything exploded in my face 1.5 years later, and I couldn't put my head back up my ass, so to speak. Fast forward to today, over 10 years later, and those people are absolutely not a part of my life anymore. And I'm absolutely not like crying that I didn't listen to them. And I'm not sad about the fact that I have this platform and I'm able to help so many other people to see the truth about their family dynamics and not gaslight themselves, and be able to empower themselves to actually set the boundaries that they need to set so that they can maintain some level of sanity moving forward. So all of this to say is that not having any of those people who judged me 10 years ago in my life today has literally zero negative effect on my life. They're completely irrelevant. Their opinions did not matter back then. I didn't realize it back then, and their opinions absolutely do not matter today. That's more than for sure. And if anything, their opinions and the fact that opinions like that exist inspires me to do what I do today, because this is the content that I wished I had back then. Now I get to make it for other people who are looking for it. So while it was kind of painful for me back then to see that these people didn't really have a space in my life, wasn't the worst thing I had to heal from, let's put it that way. And what would have been so much more painful would have been to continue living in that charade. And this really just begs the other question of, who do you talk to about this then, if you can't talk to whoever will listen? And here's another thing that I wish somebody had told me. And this might sound like a little radical, but talking to somebody about this problem is not going to make the problem go away. A lot of people, and this might sound controversial, but a lot of people believe that you need to talk things out with anybody who will listen, and then you're gonna gain clarity. And a lot of the times that can be helpful if the person listening is actually listening, but that's rare. And when you are in the midst of dealing with a narcissist and you don't know if you can trust everybody else around you or not, those are probably the last people that you should be going to for advice. So the best thing, if you have absolutely nobody to talk to, is to just recognize that having somebody to talk to is great, happy bonus if they exist, but it's not going to actually change the situation. And I know that might sound a little weird, but what's going to change the situation is processing the repressed emotions that are underneath all the trauma that you've been through. And a lot of the times that's not something that's going to be resolved magically with a 1-hour conversation with somebody. And so journaling is a really great thing to do if you literally have nobody to talk to. And even if you do have people to talk to, still do this journaling exercise because it's going to be so helpful. And I know what a lot of you are thinking. You don't want to journal because your narcissistic mother went through your journal in your childhood, read it out loud, made fun of you, used everything against you. It is not that type of journaling, I promise you. You're gonna grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, set a 20-minute timer, vomit all of your thoughts onto that paper. As soon as that timer is done, you're destroying the paper immediately. Nobody's gonna read what you wrote. You can do it for 10 minutes if you don't have 20. You can do it for 5 minutes if you don't have 20. Doing any amount of minutes is better than 0 minutes. And when you get into the habit of doing this type of journaling, you're gonna see what's gonna happen. It's just one of those things where try it, see what happens. And it's really just kind of like a brain dump thing where you're literally vomiting your thoughts onto paper. You're gonna throw your censor and your filter in the garbage. You're not gonna judge the thoughts on your brain. If you're ruminating about something, that's your journal prompt. Literally journal out everything you're ruminating about. If you're feeling ashamed that you told certain people about your narcissistic mother that you shouldn't have told and that's bothering you, journal that out. Because once you release the thoughts, they're gonna have less power over you, and then you're gonna be better able to access the emotions that are in your body. And I'm telling you right now, doing this journaling regularly is gonna help you so much more than having a conversation with somebody who doesn't get it, who doesn't deserve to hear your story, and is gonna keep telling you, but that's your mother, give her the benefit of the doubt, blah, 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 the enabler's greatest hits. And of course, if you really, really wanna talk to somebody, there's a bunch of free forums out there online. Again, you don't know, the internet's like the wild, wild west. You don't know who you're talking to, but there are people sharing their stories about their narcissistic mothers all over the place. There's Reddit, Facebook groups, all kinds of free stuff out there on the internet. But again, you have to be discerning with the free stuff because it's not necessarily moderated or moderated properly for that matter, but it is an option. And it's a great option if working with a therapist who actually understands narcissistic abuse or with a narcissistic abuse recovery coach is not something that is within reach for you. And just a shameless plug, if you are interested in coaching, I do offer it. You can check out the link in the description for more information on how to work with me, but zero pressure. And at the end of the day, there is free stuff out there. There are some people who give out pretty solid advice, but there is some weird stuff too. But again, checking out the online resources is probably going to be a bit more productive than talking to an enabler, because you're not going to get any clarity from an enabler, let's face it. And you really want to be super selective on who you are talking to and who you're getting advice from. And if you're really not sure, then it's always better to err on the side of caution and journal regardless. Whether you've got somebody to talk to or not, journal, journal, journal. I literally just gave you the instructions that I give to all my clients a few minutes ago in this video. Try that out. And if you want the instructions in writing, you can take my free quiz at the link in the description as well. And the results will have more in-depth instructions on how to journal. Gaining the clarity for yourself is the ultimate way to gain clarity. A lot of the time, other people's input does not necessarily give us the clarity that we've been looking for, because the truth is you have all the answers within yourself. It's just a matter of finding those answers. At the end of the day, anybody can say anything. Anybody can have a special title or some sort of authority, and they could be lying or they could have no idea what they're talking about. And even if you are talking to somebody who's like separated from the situation and seems to know what they're talking about, there is still that chance that they don't really know what is going on because they're not there. So at the end of the day, healing goes hand in hand with starting to trust your own inner guidance and your own compass, which has obviously been massacred by the narcissist in your life, if we're going to be realistic here. But taking those baby steps to start getting curious about your repressed emotions, start untangling your thoughts with the journaling, and seeing where that takes you will be a super helpful baby step in starting to trust yourself. And you're not going to start trusting yourself overnight, okay? Like, there's no overnight magic bullet solution. Do not expect yourself to have everything figured out by tomorrow, and then you're going to be this magically healed unicorn. You're going to set yourself up for disappointment, because it really doesn't work that way. Meet yourself where you are right now. Accept how crappy the situation is, because this is unpleasant. And the more that we try to make an unpleasant situation pleasant, we're buying into toxic positivity and we're repressing our emotions even more, and we're delaying our healing process. A big part of healing is literally accepting this sucks and letting it suck, which is probably against all the advice you've ever heard in your life. And if that's the case, that's even more of a encouragement to give it a chance and see how when you actually let something suck, it's gonna suck a little bit less. One of the wildest things that I realized very early on in my healing journey was that the more you actually allow a crappy situation to be crappy without doing anything about it or trying to change it, because you can't, and the more you accept how shitty it is, the faster you're going to gain clarity, and the faster you're going to come to terms with things, and therefore the faster you're gonna feel better, and the faster you're going to progress on your healing journey. It's not gonna feel like rainbows, sunshine, and butterflies every day, but you're gonna get glimpses of rainbows and sunshine when you actually process the crap that is in the way of the rainbows and sunshine. And it's going to be so much more helpful than living in the delusion that, you know, maybe your narcissistic mother or father or whoever the narcissist in your life is might change, because we all know that is a colossal waste of time. And if you want to take things a step further, check out the link in the description for more resources, ways to work with me, and all that fun stuff. I hope this video has been helpful. Once again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Feel free to like this video, leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.